Hello. Before we start today, I would like to share a brief story. When I was in high school, our school offered an option to take one of two courses, death and dying or marriage. Back then, I remember saying, why would anyone want to take a class on death and dying? So I chose marriage. But just a year later, my dad passed away, and suddenly I found myself facing something I wasn't prepared for. Grief is something every family faces eventually, but when it arrives, it can feel incredibly overwhelming. I want to share some thoughts on what grief looks like, the different ways people experience it, and most importantly, how we, as friends and family, can help someone walking through it. Let's start with the five stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But here's the truth: grief doesn't move in neat, orderly steps. One day, a person may feel like they found some acceptance, and the very next day, the anger returns. People often move back and forth, and that's completely normal. What's also important to know is that people grieve in different ways, depending on their personality and circumstances. Some feel lost and adrift. Some hold on through rituals and memorials. Others focus on keeping the family steady and strong. There are also activists who channel their grief into causes or service. And there are seekers who search for spiritual or personal meaning through loss. Knowing these different expressions of grief reminds us that there's no single right way to do it. Next, I want to touch upon complicated grief. For many, grief softens with time, even if we always carry its weight. But sometimes grief remains sharp and disruptive even after a year. Professionals call this complicated grief. It can look like unrelenting guilt, a longing that doesn't lessen, or an inability to return to daily life. And it's more common after a sudden or violent death or when parents lose a child. That's when professional support and grief groups become especially important. So, how can we help as family and friends? First and foremost, show up consistently. Often people disappear after the funeral, but grief doesn't end in a week. A call, a short message, or dropping by a month or 6 months later matters deeply. Second, offer practical help. Cook a meal, pick up the groceries, watch the kids. Small gestures carry great meaning. Third, listen without trying to fix. Phrases like, they're in a better place, may not be comforting. A better approach might be, I'm here for you, or would you like to share a memory? And sometimes the best thing you can do is simply be silent and present. Fourth, remember anniversaries. A quick note on a birthday or the 1 year mark says, I haven't forgotten. You can also suggest tools for healing. They include, number one, journaling, or even writing letters to the person you lost. Number two, prayer, meditation, or quiet reflection. Number three, exercise, art, or music. They can serve as emotional outlets. Number four, time in nature, which has a way of softening pain. Number five, small rituals, such as lighting a candle. Number six, reframing one's thought process, like shifting from I lost them to I carry their love with me, or from life will never be the same to life will be different, but it can still be meaningful. Lastly, I would like to share different cultural perspectives about death. In Mexico, they celebrate the Day of the Dead. It is a joyful 2-day holiday on November 1st and 2nd, honoring their departed family members. In Buddhist traditions, it's a transition to another life. In many West African cultures, ancestors are seen as guides to the living. These perspectives remind us that death isn't only an ending, it can also be a connection. I would like to end with a question. Is there ever really acceptance? For most people, acceptance does not mean forgetting or getting over it. It means learning to carry the love forward while still finding ways to live fully again. Because grief isn't something we fix, it's something we carry together. And when we show up for each other day after day, month after month, that shared weight becomes just a little lighter. For those of you who like to read, there are thoughtful books that can help. They include On Grief and Grieving by Kübler-Ross and Kessler, The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan, Didion, and Finding Meaning by David Kessler. Well, that's it for today.